Hi, hello, salutations. The mayor will have you now. The cast of Marvel Rivals is impressively large, with obscure heroes fighting alongside the biggest ones of all time. But this game has a little corner of its roster that I'd like to enlarge. Gods. Not necessarily born gods, but those who wield the cosmic power of one. Those who could claim to give Thor a run for his money and take part on divine adventures. Marvel's Divine Corner is a goldmine of fantastic characters with creative power sets, and it would be a shame to never see them in a game like this. I'm adding 3 more gods to Marvel Rivals then. 1 Vanguard, 1 Duelist, and 1 Strategist. In this order, so going from an obscure territorial powerhouse to a godly enabler with a threat of divine magnitude in the middle. Nothing left to be said, so let's jump into it with our Vanguard roll. Yay? Or nay? We love our heavy hitters. I certainly do, and tussling with the likes of Hulk, Galactus and Thor isn't for the faint of heart. Thankfully, our main man, Beta Ray Bill right here, has a heart of steel. Probably, he's like a cyber horse, he must be chromed out the wazoo. Thor's brother-in-arms here is a 3-star Vanguard too, but that is where their similarities end, my friend, as they have vastly different roles to play on the battlefield. This guy here is a bunker disguised as a brawler. Born on Corbin, Beta Ray Bill, successor to an Alpha Ray Bill we really don't care about, is the last hope for their people, their champion, disfigured through cybernetic and genetic enhancement to be the strongest of them all. So strong in fact that he could fight on par with Thor in a coincidental scuffle. That was bad enough that he could match him, but he also proved himself worthy to lift Mjolnir. The first guy to do so other than Thor, by the way. They quickly became bros and he was given his own weapon. This cybernetic horse guy has lived through many epic adventures since, from starving Galactus to death by destroying planets to stealing the mighty weapon of Surtur, the Twilight Sword. Played by his mangled appearance, he remains ever so determined to protect the homes of those who need him. Now for the actual kit. That horse is pretty hasty for his size, and his only mobility is a double jump, thanks to leg implants, and his primary is where you start to see Beta Ray Bill's whole deal, as he has 3 of them. That's right, he can use Stonebreaker as a Twilight Sword, and his bare cyber hands interchangeably in battle. Stonebreaker is versatile. While you can melee with it like any other weapon, it's a mid-range primary fire. It holds the input and the targeting marker crawls forward along the ground. Release and lightning strikes that point. Repeatable, slow and powerful, but needs a steady focus. For close quarter combat, you would take out your sword. It has longer melee range and moves much slower, and while the initial damage is similar, it applies a burn through each strike for supplementary tick damage. And lastly, he can use his bare fists. While the damage per second is again similar to the 2 other weapons, reminder that Beta Ray Bill can match Thor with a godly weapon. Is this a faster paced melee, dealing the same amount of damage overall in quicker, weaker strikes rather than the heavy ones. This is a good time to add that you can only use your fist if 1 or 2 of your weapons are not on your person. How may that come? Well, let's get into his abilities, the meat of the character. Beta Ray Bill can throw both of his weapons in 2 separate abilities with a different usage for each. Throwing Stonebreaker deals damage to anyone on its path before it sticks to a wall or the ground. It creates then a mid-sized zone, discreetly indicated. Entering that zone will issue a second long warning before a lightning strike deals heavy damage in there. It's a trap. It has its own cooldown in between possible strikes of a couple of seconds. You can also throw the Twilight Sword. It will pin itself into the ground and create a scorched zone. Stepping in will apply a burning effect on you, an effect added by Bill that he is immune to, thanks to his Corbin biology. Worse than that, it enhances him. When scorched, Beta gains a flat damage boost and overhealth every, 5 seconds or so. As he thrives in hot temperatures, his fists gain an even mightier damage boost than Stonebreaker with this passive, if you even have the axe on hand, that is. Both can be shut down though, resetting the cooldown to throw them again, but you can also retrieve them yourself. Stonebreaker can be cold, coming back to you going through any enemies in its path to land back into your hand. While Twilight Blade has no such enchantment, so to retrieve it, you have to be a certain distance from it to initiate a leap, getting it back into your hands with a landing shockwave. And lastly, he has an echo to Thor in the form of a little bubble he can create to ground and slow enemies. That bubble does a bit of damage in addition to those with a scorched effect. So now you get why I call Beta Ray Bill a bunker disguised as a brawler. His kit revolves around making a space his rather than pushing, akin to Groot or Penny, but his close quarter gameplay still builds him as a threat. His blade is all around used for territory, used in proximity to create a perimeter that is yours and enhances you while being dangerous for enemies. His axe is a more flexible weapon used in between phases with distance damage and trap setups. One handles the length, the other the girth. Dear God, I'm leaving that one in. No need to overcomplicate him. He's a hero that can build a territory for his team, set traps, and box the shit out of you if needed. And as his last resort, his ultimate, called Twilight Breaker, comes into play. Beta Ray Bill recalls both of his weapons, plants his Twilight Sword beneath him and raises Stormbreaker, calling fire from the depth and lightning from the sky. The two clash on each other as Bill becomes the epicenter of the deadly impact, after a second only to react. The initial zone is where it hits the hardest. A following shockwave graces the ground with a steep damage fall-off. That's mostly it. Except it's not. The scorched earth remains for about a second after Bill reclaims his sword, long enough to remain there during his ultimate, and that ground is conductive, meaning that just like his fellow bunker vanguards, Bill can set up his ultimate to be even more powerful and deadly by connecting the two zones, being as close to the edge as possible for that damage to travel to that area too. And now that's it, for real this time. For a team up, I won't be a clever cunt. It's Thor, worthy brothers. They gain a team-up ability where Bill throws Stormbreaker towards him and Thor strikes it back with Mjolnir, creating a shockwave along the return path. You can also do this the other way around. Beta Ray Bill isn't a complicated guy. His relevancy is mostly based on one factor. He is metal as fuck, and he fights valiantly for those whom are threatened. I hope to convey these elements right in this kit. He's been rumored for a while, but what would his kit look like? How would a God Butcher feel in Marvel Rivals, and how much of a threat would he pose as a duelist? As a 3-star character, he can be a great threat when played strategically, but you can still have your fun on his kill floor. Gorr the God Butcher, a divine menace to the cosmos spanning thousands of years of torment directed towards the gods themselves for failing their duties and playing with the lives of mortals. Equipped with the weapon of Null himself, the ancestor to all symbiotes, a malleable blade, all black, the Necrosword. He can match Thor 3 times over and has slain hundreds of gods in his wake on his quest to divine extinction. He is not to be trifled with, as even the mightiest of the universe feel their godhood rendering useless. Against this spiteful mortal, there is no safety from him, and his kit reflects that fact. As a bruiser, he's not much equipped in mobility, with a reasonable running speed at his disposal. His singular movement ability is an offensive dash that covers a rather short distance. Thanks to Butcher's advance, Gorr envelops himself in all black and pulls enemies nearby during this dash. He might not reach far, but his opponents travel to him too. Gorr then slashes upwards to send clumped enemies into the air with overshield so that he won't explode from the now angry mob. As his primary, despite being a bruiser, is barely above the regular melee range, with slashes from his sword akin to blades. His abilities are where he takes away your safety, as he has a counter to set up heavy teams. Sanctuary Breaker allows to direct an attack with a finger snap. From the point and location will raise all black, launching enemies upwards with timid damage, but it remains useful as it breaks any objects it comes in contact with a mid to long cooldown. To cover distances, he has a second attack, Black Berserker, where it summons a monster from the ground like a dolphin, coming up before diving back down. Enemies caught by it will be damaged, but most importantly launched in the direction the monster was going in. For close quarter combat, he has a traveling heavy slash for burst damage. This ability allows him to have overshield and take away the enemies if they had some. And lastly, he needs a bit of survivability to stand alongside his bruiser friends, so he has all black shroud, an impenetrable shield he can hold for a few seconds, restraining him from his other abilities. When released, enemies in direct proximity like melee range close, really close, or pushed back an impressive 10 to 20 meters with no damage attached, a method of getting someone off your back or dispersing a group if you pop it quickly. Be wary, as its cooldown is significant. You can infer from this that his bruiser archetype matches with the character fantasy. Gorr is the god butcher, the one who makes the safest feel unsafe. Therefore, all of his kit revolves around taking away enemy safety nets. Deployable objects, overshield, and positioning are all under threat with Gorr, and the team relying on the characters founded on those principles will struggle, as he is the direct counter. With two abilities giving him overshield and a barrier, he fits alongside Reed and Blade in the stamina department, staying relevant in the fight as long as he can, as he's meant to meet danger head-on. What he lacks in extraordinary bursts of damage, he makes up in attrition, perturbation, and that's something that extends to his ultimate. Death Row is activated as Gorr picks a spot and creates a radius of blades. From the ground sprouts rows of blade that functions in a pattern. Like waves, they follow direction, moving from left to right and right to left, from back to front and front to back. These four waves of blades damage but also push in the direction they are going, so even if you wouldn't necessarily die from it if you're full health or getting healed, you have to pay attention to the ult, as fighting against the waves will not get you out. Riding the waves and a well-timed jump or movement ability is your best bet, but that streamlines the focus of anyone stuck inside the ult, leaving them as easy picking for your team, or from you, as you remain active during the ult. It's an attention seeker that holds the space, and while it's not too deadly, it's a hell of a setup, juggling and damaging your enemies. As a team up, there are none closer to Gorr than Venom, who finds his roots as a symbiote to All Black. Gorr lends some of its power to Venom, who now, when he strikes the ground, has an additional row of swords coming from the ground, like a little wave for extra damage in range. Gorr the God Butcher brings down the mightiest defenses and takes away your safety nets, so that you can only count on yourself to take him on, or die trying. Give up your faith, and fight him with everything you have. The god's greatest warden graces you with his ever-watchful eye on the battlefield. Our strategist in this video is Heimdall himself. With unmatched vigilance and the people's interest at heart, he makes for a great support, but not any support. We've got yet another 3-star hero on our hands, and one that does not function as a lifeline, but more like a flex healer. Trusted guardian of the Asgardian, Heimdall is tasked with a simple task: allow people in or not. This quest is made for him, as his eyes and ears can span the entire universe, surveilling any place he wants to at any time. That lends him the responsibility to use the Bifrost carefully and be of aid of anyone who needs him. Nothing can distract him from the safety of Asgard, not even death itself. He is so focused on the task at hand that he gets no movement. That's right, you replace Adam's spot on the bench of speedless heroes. Sorry, my guy. Going over his passive too, Heimdall has unbroken gaze. He naturally sees invisible enemies, and any enemy he directly looks at remains visible to him for a short moment even after breaking line of sight, like a halfway between Daredevil and Punisher. Starting with his primary is a bit funny because it's the most conceptual of the lot. There is no melee healer, and a trend like that is not going to start with him. If you want to use your blade, you can melee, but its primary is ranged. Thanks to Chronovian shenanigans, Heimdall has gained access to greater control over the Bifrost and can summon smaller portals to bring projectiles at light speed to the battlefield, to be thrown at his enemies. Small portals spit out material to damage, it cannot heal. And where to fetch endless ammunitions? Asgard's vault, of course. Heimdall bifrosts gold coins and the likes to his location to be launched at opponents. His right click is an enlarged portal that needs to be charged to throw an artifact of some sort. The head of a statue, weapon from the vault, something to smash into the enemy. Contrarily to his left click, The bigger attack can't headshot, but it does better overall damage when fully charged and a bit of AoE. Since he's one of the few healers unable to heal through his main attack, he must have pretty reliable burst healing. From his time using the Odin Force, he can throw a wave of it towards his team. They will automatically get 20% of their health back, and then a subsequent heal over time with fall off, with a moderate cooldown. His second way of healing is with Guardian. You can mark an ally. They are consistently highlighted, and if they fall under 25%, you get a prompt to give them a significant heal. Useful on any role, tank, healer, but also dive since there is no range to it. If they find themselves in a pickle, you can give them a little help. The cooldown is initiated if you do heal that character. Then there are more selfish abilities, such as Foresight. Thanks to prediction of the future, which he has, he can activate an auto-dodge that make him immune to any attacks for a short window. Lastly, he has Bored Eyes, enabling him to stop playing for a handful of seconds to watch through their enemy's POV. There is a vignette that hides specifics of their HUD, but it's just shallow enough to show a corner of the old square, seeing if it's grey or yellow. You can switch between every one of them and ping through their own POV, highlighting for your allies, for example, a hidden dive or strategist waiting for the team nearby, to remove some element of surprise. Like Adam, Ultron or White Fox, Heimdall isn't a full-time healer. He's a very welcome help as a flex healer. He's equipped to do significant damage and avoid a lot of punishment, but overall his healing presents him as a watchful guardian with his group healing and acute attention to a player under his direct protection. Supported by his ability to ping and warn of enemy positions, he is well equipped to give them more agency. Heimdall is less a babysitter and more of an enabler, making way for your team to be more bold and safe through the resources you lend them. Something that of course extends to his ultimate. And you probably have an idea of what it is. Come on, this is obvious. The Bifrost comes into full effect. Move aside, Strange, you're not the only one who can bring the team to point now. The Bifrost has a huge range. Any ally caught in it gets transported after an instant to the objective. Once in there, they get full health, and a healing zone is also placed with very tame healing. That gives your team some leniency and also benefits allies who were not teleported but are nearby, so they can get some healing from the ult. As stated, it's a short duration and not a large amount of that healing, but it's a super reliable ult, bringing the full team operational without stepping out one by one through a portal, and that from any predicament. Getting pushed into spawn. Nuh-uh. You team doing a C9. Not on my watch. Last ditch assault? Yes please. We're already on point. Well, how do you like that healing, my guy? Rather than a healing circle or res, is an immediate strategic high ground and reward your team's ability to capitalize on it without holding their hands too much, as befits someone who watches over those mightier than himself. Now, with what team up would he launch? An Asgardian perhaps? Daredevil or Cyclops with their magic eyesight? Well, I did think about it, to be honest, but actually I landed on Black Widow. That's right. I knew I would never find another opportunity to make a team up with her after this one, and since I don't repeat team up characters in this series, I would eventually have to make a nonsensical team up. So instead, I'm doing Black Widow now. Heimdall is of aid of the sniper by allowing her to use a slit of Bifrost wherever she needs on a wall, on the ground, or a roof. Then, when in her scope, she can switch into another scope that shows the Bifrost exit she has placed, enabling her to search around and shoot through it, creating another angle for her to shoot from, and to make some really impossible unsuspected shots. That'll do it for this character, a strategist who primes under full awareness. That'll do it for this divine little roster expansion. 3 characters, 3 roles, and 3 very different ways to translate godly power into Marvel rivals. Beta Ray Bill is a territorial powerhouse, claiming space through weapons, fire, lightning, and the kind of physical presence that makes him feel worthy of standing next to Thor. Gorr is the threat in the middle, the one who doesn't just deal damage but strips away what makes a team feel secure, from objects to overshield to positioning. And Heimdall is the enabler, a strategist built on awareness, timing, and the idea of giving your team something to work with. That was the main challenge here. Characters on this level can very quickly become too much, so the goal was to keep the fantasy intact without making them overpowered. Tell me which of the 3 you'd actually want to play, or which one you think would be the most miserable to fight against. And if there are other divine, god adjacent, Mjolnir adjacent, or cosmic power freaks you think deserve a kit, throw them my way. This corner of Marvel has more than enough candidates for another round, but moreover, for next time, I'm torn on whether I should add space-related characters or more midnight suns into the game. Break that tie for me. Lastly, as you can see, I have a couple hundred subscribers right now, and for some reason the hype feature is only active once you have a 500. So here is my first sub goal ever. This would really help the channel grow if you could lend me a hand there. For now though, I've been the mayor, and I'll see you next time. See you, goodbye, farewell.